Well, it says we're live. Let's see if there's any chance that we're actually alive. I see me in this screen. Let's count down to the other screen. Does it turn up? Yeah, okay. It's not a long delay. And so, that must mean it's Thursday evening where I am. For you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Let me entertain you. I love when my phone says, by the way, you're live on wherever I'm live. I don't know. There, let me get another screen up here so I can see this. Good. My volume looks a little bit low. So we got a little sunshine maybe on the other side, somewhere up here. There we go. And it's kind of buried behind the bubble there, but it's 105 degrees Fahrenheit right outside my window here. That is not the hottest that I've seen it in the last week. It's toasty out there, and I'm a good guy. We have voluntary water conservation going on here. So I voluntarily conserve my water. I do all the right things. My yard, it looks like a hayfield that never got harvested by November. It's just brown and crunchy. And crunchy and brown. It's kind of like a Snickers bar. Hey, well, anyways, it is Thursday. This is ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. I am the aforementioned Dave Rush, your tech from Texas. And we're here because we love tech. We just like to talk about it. And this show is dedicated to disseminating information about the use of technology. And in particular, we're interested in how the advancement of technology impacts our daily lives and our long-term lives. Topics are wide-ranging. We celebrate technology from electric cars to electric guitars, music to movies, the synergy of energy, booting to computing, Linux to ethics. I'm going to memorize all this one day, but I kind of like reading it. The chase to space, cyber to fiber, security to electricity, and Raspberry Pi to Sci-Fi and AI. And we're not afraid to delve into social topics, including religion, sex, politics, and COVID. Like that. Oh, goodness, what am I going? If you are not watching this live, you are watching on the archive, you're one of the handful of people that do that. We get about 4 or 5 times the viewership on archive than we do live, and that's completely okay. I am recording this. I am doing this live on Thursday, August 17th at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's midnight UTC, Universal Time Coordinate, Team Coordinate. And if you're keeping count, I don't know how to keep count anymore. I've pulled some of these early ones. I don't know. We're in the 20-somethings on shows. We started this show after killing our old show. My old show was Drama. Back when I did it under the umbrella of the company I work for. And we killed that in December of 22. And by February, I was going stir crazy. So we woke this guy up the first week of February and have been on pretty much ever since. And enjoying it and will be for the foreseeable future. Some minor changes today that you wouldn't have noticed if I didn't mention it, but I will mention it. Shows run long. I yammer, okay? This is like the old joke. If you ask me what time it is, I'll tell you how to build a clock. And so I've created a self-imposed limitation to help improve that. Only a specified maximum number of news articles, and I'm not going to go deep into them. That helps us get right onto the project. Today, last week, we mostly completed part 2 of a really fun project exploring some of the more whimsical utilities in Linux. And we're going to stick with Linux for one more week. Then we'll do something else next week, maybe. I don't know. I have one final one on tap, but I'm not going to do that and then get onto our main project because I've never done it. I haven't tried it out. So what we're going to do is our main project today. I have tried that out several times. And then if there's time and there's interest, we'll go and do this other one that I have sitting on tap. So the main project today is to install Firefox version 1.16 onto a Raspberry Pi. Now, Firefox version 1.16 doesn't exist. It has not been released. However, it is in an early release stage. And why do we care? It's just another version that's out early. Well, because it's special for us, for me in particular. Big fan of Raspberry Pi computers, as you know. And Raspberry Pi computers are not 100% documented. The agreement between the nice folks at Raspberry Pi and the nice folks at ARM, I don't know what that agreement is, but I know that information about the internal workings of the video processor were hidden from the public. And people fought and screamed, and they tore chips apart, and they figured things out. And I think the two companies are making more information available. And so here's a problem. Until this information was available, whenever you use a program that has video in it, a still image, a motion graphic, like a and even like this live graphic, they had to send the code through a program which is run by the CPU. Now that works, but the CPU is not the fastest thing in the world. And when you're doing that, that means the CPU has to take away time from doing regular projects so it can work on video. Well, there is hardware encoding built into the internal video card. And there have been utilities, programs, that have taken advantage of that, but they're not real mainstream utilities. Firefox is the first mainstream utility that says, we got it. We're providing support for the internal video card of the Raspberry Pi's hardware encoding. And they've got 3 more things on their map to get it even better. Right now, they're hardware encoding to H.264. There's 2 more formats that they're going to do, and then they're going to do hardware encoding. And that makes the Raspberry Pi closer to a legitimate player in a desktop world. It's not probably going to be your daily driver at the office. And then again, who knows? So that's why we're excited about this. And that's why I want to install it with you, because it is an early release. In fact, it's called an RR, a rapid release. It has not trickled into the Raspberry Pi repositories. It has kind of sort of trickled into another operating system that was designed to run on the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to show you how to make that usable, how we can pull a program from a repository that isn't a native repository to this. And then here comes the big twist. It's going to fail. It's going to fail. And I'll explain why when that happens. And then we're going to do a success. And it was just a ton of fun. By the way, I don't see Elaine here, but if Elaine Batzer turns up, or if she watches this on archive, she asked me a question on LinkedIn about prep time, getting ready for these shows. And I told her that in a textual response that it took me 2 hours to try out and fine tune all of the steps to achieve the failure and to achieve the success. But I don't think that's what she asked. I think she wants to know prep time for a given show. And just in case anybody's curious, the usual prep time that I put in over the course of a week is 8 to 10 hours. And of course, it's all late night. Sometimes I do it all in one day. Well, not quite, but two nights. But usually I get a little head start. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow night, I'll get a head start on next week's project, picking it at least, and then a couple hours on the weekend, and then some fine tuning over the rest of the week. So, hey, at any rate, then, so it is intro time done. Eep, op, orc, What else is cooking? Well, let's see who's here. The usual crowd. Tullowitz here. Way early. 12:50 a.m. I wasn't in bed. If I'd seen this, I didn't go to bed till about 2:30 this morning. A little bit of work on this, a lot of work on a work project. Hey, got to mention that. So I have had this work project on my plate for, I don't know, 6-8 weeks, something like that. And it's a project that it's easy to do as far as the actual, execution. But there's a lot of research, there's a lot of setup, there's a lot of coordination, and it's a multi-person project where I can't do some of my stuff until somebody ahead of me in line completes their stuff. So, and I'm sitting here ready and champing at the bit to do something, and I can't. And it's not my job to push anybody. It happens. Well, anyways, Monday night, 3 nights ago, I finished. They're submitted and they're waiting for somebody to look them over just to make sure that there's no, audio flaws or video flaws or something like that. But I am so excited because I have 3 studios in my house. I know this one. I have one upstairs that's been shut down because of the flood we experienced a year and a half ago. The flood damage has all been repaired, and we started cleaning that room and resetting it back up so it can be a real studio again. And then I've got this temporary studio that I set up for this project from work. And I am so ready to tear it down. I can't until somebody gives me the final blessing that says the last ones you shot are fine. And then, man, I rip that thing down and get all the equipment back down to the office and my equipment put back away. It's going to be a house again. All right. And then Tully would check back in at his usual time, half an hour before showtime. Patricia Grace is here. Very busy talking with me on multiple platforms. Good to see you, Patricia. And good evening, afternoon, as the case may be. Oh man, everybody's popping in here. I got a super scroll. Live 105. Yepper. I let it go. I am not going to do a joke about heat in Hawaii because there was just too much loss of life. Abu Bakr Al-Haj. Hey, for the first time I didn't add an extra L. Good to see you, my friend. I am doing well, thank you. And you? Trisha Grace is tired. Finished mowing before the usual. Oh, what I wouldn't give for one of your thunderstorms. We had to wash a vehicle this past weekend, and I didn't, turn the hose on and hose the thing down. I filled a bucket and used brushes and things like that. And then we took the bucket of leftovers and poured it into a flower garden we have out front that hasn't seen water in 2 weeks. And a day later, it just exploded. It's awesome. Scott Jernigan, amongst the living. Good to see you. Scott, I have seen your Civ and Conan pop up multiple times in the last couple of days. I know, it runs in the background. You're not playing all day. And Scott, there are things we have to talk about here locally, so I can find out what we can share and what you can share and things like that. But I obviously spilled the beans the other day on the news that you got, and of course the whole thing didn't spiral out of control. It spiraled into control, and I just sent you a nice visit this weekend. And I gather that would have happened if I hadn't mentioned it, but because it was the mention would have come from the other side. But I know I'm being cryptic with everybody. Sometimes I know people, we have semi-private conversations in front of others. We could switch to, there's no language I speak that somebody here doesn't already speak better than I do. So no Russian, no Japanese, no French, which is my best language. So we use cryptic code. Well, all right, what's going on? Tech news of the week. So I am keeping my tech news light and short so we can dive into real projects. But a couple of these were interesting. There wasn't a ton of really fascinating news that I said, I've just got to share that with everybody and we got to talk about it. But there was 3 or 4. So NASA is working on basically laser communication with the intent of getting the next Mars probes to communicate back to Earth, either to local satellite or satellite to Earth satellite or whatever, but using lasers instead of radio frequency. Is that just cool, or is there a valid reason for it? Of course there's a valid reason for it. And let me show you this, because I think this is something you ought to know. You know how we have moved from 900 megahertz wireless stuff in the US to 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz. Well, there's multiple reasons why that happens. Certainly one of them is as soon as a band starts getting used, it gets popular and then it gets overused. But that's not a real problem, except in some special case, particularly dense areas. The deal goes something like this. When you're communicating with radio frequency, you're working with a sine wave. And you can use a sine wave to represent 1 bit. With some heavy magic, you can get more, but basically 1 bit. So if I'm working in audio channels and I'm running 3,000 hertz cycles per second, I can, under normal circumstances, move in theory about maximum 3,000 bits per second. Not a bad number back in the day, but we weren't actually that precise back in those days. So with 900 megahertz, now I can move, in theory, 900 million bits per second. At 2.4 gigahertz, 2.4 billion bits per second. Doesn't quite work out that way, but that's a theoretical max. Well, let's get out of the radio frequency world then and start talking about the incredible frequencies represented by light and by lasers. So with laser, we get a particular frequency of light that's really high, tens of gigahertz. And of course, it's high energy, tightly focused. So it's got some built-in security to it. And it has a lot of benefits over radio frequency communication, not the least of which is much higher transmission rates. So do I have an article for that for you? Sure. I'm going to post this in the chat without any... maybe I can do this. See if I can squeeze some reference information in there for you and get it all... Yeah, it all fits. Okay. So they're going to test this on their next probe of an asteroid, which is going to launch, if everything goes on time, this October. And they will be using it not when it's parked around the asteroid, but as it travels toward the asteroid. So obviously when it's closer, they can communicate more quickly with it, do more fixes if and when there's problems. You get the idea. And then when that moves, then we can move on to a next phase, farther and longer, and eventually Mars. Slide 2. I have more slides. We only have 5 slides today. We're on slide 3. This, I was looking for tech news and science news this week, and it was, as I said, fairly light as far as the things we talk about and want to share. But I did find a nice news site called SciTech Daily. You can get there at scitechdaily.com. You can see it as well as I can. This is just a screen cap of my web browser when I did it. Good stuff. It's all well categorized. And what I like about this is it's not dumbed down and it's not at the physicist PhD level. It's a good, moderate presentation of lots of good science and tech that's coming on every day. And it's not underwhelming. It's not overwhelming. So enjoy. I did that. I don't know why I didn't pull that out. Last thing. That's why. There was no slide 3. Let's go to that. I know you can't see this very clearly, but again, I will put a link in the chat feed. This is cool. This is cool. I posted this on another forum that many of us share too today. This, if you are studying networking, maybe for some certification, maybe just because you want to be a better networker or you want to self-study or whatever, you're going to encounter the magical, mystical world of CIDR, C-I-D-R, classless interdomain routing, better known in the world as subnetting. Thanks, Scott. And who isn't studying networking? That's exactly right. So this is a site that, as a practice, subnet generator. That top bar above the chart looking thing has a new button. And every time you click it, it generates a new subnet and a new IP address. And then you get to work in the boxes and figure out all the values. So it's not a teaching site. They do link to some of their videos that teach, but cool site. Cool site. All right, that's it for news of the week. Is there any other slides in here? We're on slide 4 of 5. Oh yeah, let's get this one out of the way. So we've designed 3 shirts for ADRAMADA swag, and I have been sitting on the 4th for a few weeks trying to figure it out. And it came to me last night, working late. So it's got to be buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. It's got to have the logo in there. And I was just trying to come up with ways to do buzz, buzz, buzz. Would there be a buzz saw cutting through it? Would there be something graphical that looked like buzzing? And it dawned on me, wait a minute, there's bazillions of fonts out there that can very easily represent things like buzzing and grinding. So I found a couple, and this is the candidate. And unless somebody's got better, different input and the family doesn't disagree, we now have 4 shirt designs, and I am now ready, if that's the case, next week to get in contact with swag printers and fulfillment houses. So I am excited. Just 2 fun personal things. You know, I share personal with you. Time marches on. We get a little whiter. I got a nice little circle up there. Technology marches on. And in my field, I keep up with that technology. That's it. I'm not going to push that. But I have a hobby that I haven't participated for real in a decade and a half, maybe longer. And I decided to, you know, as we're becoming empty nesters here, that I would get back into it. It's ham radio. It's amateur radio. And so I've been building up what hams call their shack, which is basically it's their room or their space where they set up their radios and do their thing. So I've been building out my shack. It's ready to go. It has everything in it. It's got the radios and the mics and the meters and outside my antenna came in the other day, and I created some of it and suspended it. I just need the cable that goes from the back of the radio to the antenna. And back in the day, 15, 20, 25 years ago, when I was really hot and heavy into this thing, there was a particular cable type that was the go-to cable. Same thing that was used in thick Ethernet, coaxial cable called RG8. And so I says to myself, well, I just need to get myself a 50-foot length of RG8, put some connectors on it, and off we go. They laughed. Yeah, there's RG8 out there anymore, but that's old, dead technology, and there's so much better, and technology has left me behind. So I wound up researching for a couple of days to find out the new replacement stuff. There's lots and lots and lots, and pick the best and get into the specs and do the measurement. And so finally, I ordered yesterday 50 feet of LMR 400, which is not that old or not that new. But back when I was playing with it, it was newly introduced and had no traction, and I didn't even know about it back then. So we're hamming here pretty soon, and I will bring you in on that hobby. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of interesting, and we, of course, will adapt Linux computers to it to have fun. Last personal thing, I am almost an empty nester. Technically, officially, I am. We moved the kid out last weekend. He has his own apartment. He has a job working for a cool contractor. He won't even tell me some of the things he does, and he's only been there a week. Sorry, man, non-disclosed and clearance and all that. All right, fine, I get that. But we are not total empty nesters, it turns out, because tonight I got a call. Car trouble, man, can you help me? So yeah, we troubleshot it over the phone. We got it working right now, but I would call today's solution a temporary solution. And I'm going out to Austin this weekend, and we will come up with a more permanent solution, which basically means giving him a new car and taking his beater back and suffering with it. I know that the problem is we're hot, 105 degrees. He's hot, 110. 110. Are you kidding? Starting this weekend, I will be the ultimate empty nester, taking the missus to the airport. The kid doesn't live here anymore. It's Dave at the house alone, which, in the day I would have said, woohoo! Now that just means no interruptions and I can get more work done. All right, that's all the nonsensical stuff. Let me set myself up here on where we're going to do that. Okay, let's check messages last time, and then we're going to get started on today's project. Yeah, party. You like the shirt. It's a Raspberry Pi day, and I was debating wearing a Raspberry Pi shirt. No, I don't have to have a uniform. I just have to have something that conforms to my habits here, something techie and Linuxy. I have a shirt coming in on the 28th. I am just stoked to wear. Needs to be in black, amigo. Wait. I don't know. That's the cool thing. I provide the logo for printing in black and white and auto sizable. And then the fulfillment house will offer a variety of shirt colors. So you can have whatever shirt color makes you happy within their range, and whatever color you want the text or pictures or whatever to be, either black or white. Of course, the logo that looks like an Andromeda, that's not going to change colors. Yeah, I'm just enjoyed that shirt. Came to me last night, and I said, "Oh, I got it." Okay, in the next 2 weeks, I will announce shirt availability. And don't panic. I got to give you a heads up. I want to sell shirts for $9 a piece. There is nobody that's going to let me sell shirts for $9 a piece. They're probably going to be in the 20 to 25 zone, and they're not offering me freebies either. I got to cough up $25 a shirt. So I'm going to spend $100 on 4 shirts. Red, gold, blue for shirt colors. Give me yellow, blue, red, and gold. The color. All right. I prefer V-neck. I will probably have crew necks. Yes, RG8 lies. This LMR 400. RG8, I lose about 3 dB per 100 feet. LMR 400, I lose 0.29 dB. Maybe a little more than that. 0.6 dB per 100 feet. And I'm only running a 50-foot run. So I'm only putting 7 watts into this thing. I like low power challenge. So I can't take a real lossy cable. I don't want 7 watts in, 3.5 make it to the antenna. I want 7 watts in and 6 watts makes it to the antenna. Dave's not so nosing my snark. Didn't I? I thought I did. Okay, so we're talking shirts. Needs to be in black. Who isn't? You're right. I'm missing it. I'm just dumb. We all know that. And RG8 is decidedly forever. I'm with you on that. I went for the RG8. I'm missing it. Sorry. All right, let's do some fun then. Since I'm dumb in that area, but I do have a fairly good idea what's going on here. So, as I mentioned last week, and again today, Mozilla, the nice folks at Mozilla have made a new latest version of Firefox. It's version 116. It will hit the mainstream pipes in fairly short order. But for now, I wanted to see it on Raspberry Pi. Now, I did all my testing this week on a 3 or a 3B or a 3B plus. I don't know. It was whatever I had running, and I didn't bother to check the rev. I set up a 4B last night at 2 o'clock in the morning. I had it all finished and fixed up, and I didn't test it on there. So I don't know what we're going to see here. Reading my notes here, trying to see what I can skip and what I can get right to. All right, so here is the problem restated. As I said, the version 116 is not yet ready for prime time, so I can't go to my Raspberry Pi fire up a command line and say sudo apt install Firefox and get 116. In fact, if I do that, I'm going to get 110 right now. I found a way to get their early release, which is 113. That's still 3 generations behind, so that's no es bueno. But per an article that I read, the rapid release of 116 is available in the Ubuntu repo for the version of Ubuntu that runs on Raspberry Pi. So I said, well, I'm just going to use that version and install it here. And I did it step by step and had to undo some steps, and so we all document and go smoothly, and it's finally all ready to go. And I say, what version are you? And it said 113. And I tried everything and no soap. As far as forcing 113 to do what it's never designed to do. So that was no good. I deleted the whole thing and said, I know another way that does work. Somebody has done all of the work for us. And I could make a 4-minute show and do that right away. But I want to teach you something. I want to teach you how to get programs connection successful. I rebooted. Yeah, I see you typing. Let me refresh this page and make sure everything's cool. I got a message that said it disconnected and it was auto reconnecting and it reconnected. Oh, man. Say something, it says. All right, that's it. I'm on the show next week. Wonderful. Nothing would make me happier. Let me refresh this page. I should be back. All signs point to yes. My magic 8 ball. Okay, I see myself. All right, so let's do this thing. So what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to show you this failure mode. I'm also going to tell you that if the information that I got from the toots that I ran into over the course of the last week, if you're running Ubuntu, the Raspberry Pi version of Ubuntu on Raspberry Pi, the native repo should support this. You won't have to do anything but the usual sudo apt install Firefox. But all right, so let me just dive right into this thing. This project uses both command line and GUI. We'll do all the installation stuff with command line. Then we test it with GUI. We discover that it fails in the GUI. We kill it. And then I'll show you the quick way, guaranteed to work. It's wonderful. So let me connect you to VNC. Boom. And there's a Raspberry Pi in all of its 1080 glory. Man, I should never have done this, but I don't have a choice now. I think I can make this font a little bigger. I think I didn't make it big enough. Stand by a second. Preferences, 14. Let's make it 16. And then let's close this and make sure we got 16 with a reopen. All right. Okay, so we could have done this with a PuTTY connection or an SSH connection of some other program, but we got enough to do business here, right? So there's a couple early release versions of Firefox out there. One of them is their ESR, extended support, and the other is their rapid release. We need the rapid release. The process here is we have to tell Raspberry Pi that we want another repo. We don't want it to only look in the Raspberry Pi repo. And that's kind of a 3-step process. And we start by editing the repo list. So I'm going to do that and show you what I'm doing here. Boom, right click, paste. So I'm going to use Nano, my text editor. There's a file called sources.list in the Etsy apt directory, and I got to use sudo because regular accounts can't access that thing. Boom. All right. It's a short little file. There's nothing in there, and all it does is defines the fact that there is one repo right now for this version of Raspberry Pi OS. So I need to add a new line to the end of it. And there's my new line, deb, and you can see we're going to point this to an Ubuntu port, Bionic update, and this is the one that points to the correct Raspberry Pi version of that. That's it. That part of the file is done. Step 1 is done. Control X, yes, enter. Okay, we've updated the list of repos. Now, every repo out there in Linux has a public and private key, and they're published. So I don't know why we bother, but we've got to add a key, and we're going to use a method that's not going to exist for much longer. We're going to use a command called apt key. So I'm going to say sudo apt key adv, identify a key server. It's called keyserver.ubuntu.com, and we're going to get keys, and we're going to say we have, and this is the key that we're going to provide to it. So, all right. You don't have to know what we're doing. Just know, hey, look at that. We got no errors. So step 2, we've added a repository for him to look to. We've added the key to that repository. Hey, good news. And now we have to create a file that's going to give us some information on how to use that new repository. So first, if this file already existed, this command would edit it to the command that I'm about to show you, but this file doesn't exist, and so this will create a shiny new one. So I'm going to sudo nano, and I'm going to create a file called 99bionic-updates in the Etsy apt preferences.d directory. And it's blank because I just created it. That makes sense. So we need to put the following lines in there. Again, this is all in my... it will be. I haven't put this in there yet. But this will all be in the downloadable section at ADRAMADA.com. All right. Created a file. It says any package in there. We could specify only get such and such a package from there in future. But we're not going to do that. So we're going to save this. Control X, yes, enter. All right. Those are the 3 steps. Except, not surprisingly, there's always something else to do. Now we've got to tell the Raspberry Pi to read and take advantage of all those new things that we did. So we're going to do our old friend here, sudo apt update. It's going to take a moment. Oops. And he goes, buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. I'm so hyper conscious of that now. That was internalized. There we go. That was nice and quick. All right. This thing is ready to install anything that's in there. In fact, what happens is kind of interesting. If I say sudo apt install cool thing, it will first look in its own local repositories. And if it finds it, he says, okay, that's where I'm going to get it from, the actual Raspberry Pi OS repo. And if it doesn't find it from there, then he will go over and get it from, excuse me, whatever other ones we've added to the list. In this case, our good friend here. All right, so let's do an install of Firefox. It's real simple. You've done this a million times before. Right, click paste. So we're just going to say sudo apt install Firefox. Now again, version 110 is the one that's in the Raspberry Pi repository. This is going to take about 2 minutes, somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes. You really want to do this? Yeah, I really want to do it. 54 megs. Okay. He looked, you can see it happening already here. As these lines go up here, get one, HTTP, blah, 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 ARM HF 113.0.2. When I looked at that, the first time I did this, knowing that I want 116, I said, well, you know, the tutorial says this is what you got to do, so maybe there's something going on that I don't know about. Maybe he's going to load up 113 and then add to it. And maybe not. I don't know. So, all right, that one went a little quicker than was concerned. What were we there? Sudo apt install Firefox. That was a short one. Yeah, okay, that's why it went a lot quicker here. All right, so now let's run it and see what we got here. We'll shrink this guy. Shrink. So we'll go in here. We'll go into Internet. There's Firefox. He's shiny and new. And he comes up and he says, now this is the first time we ran it, so he's going to ask us some questions. Skip it, yes please. Skip it, yes please. And skip it, yes please. Now we're ready finally to start. Go into more tools. We'll go into, oops, did I get ahead of myself here? Browser console, remote debugger. Read the instructions that you took the time to write here. Hamburger menu, help about Firefox. It's help, not more tools. Help, 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 help. There's help about Firefox. And sure enough, it's 113.0.2. So we failed. All right. How we doing here? We're in great shape. It's only 43. So I'm going to undo everything that we just did. We start by getting rid of Firefox. Sudo apt remove Firefox. And then we got to get rid of the references to the new repo. We don't want to use that repo anymore. Now we've got to go in and get rid of the key. Oh, wait a minute. We've got to get rid of the file we created. Paste. Okay, sudo remove blah 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 99 bionic updates. That took no time at all. Now we get rid of that private key, or public key rather. Sudo apt key delete. And the key is gone. And he says, hey, warning, apt key is deprecated. It worked, but it is deprecated. So they tell us you should use a different method. And I'll talk about that method in a future. And then finally, we got to get rid of that one-liner that we put in the sources.list file. So we'll go down here. We dump the line. We save it. Control X, yes, enter. And then we got to tell it, read all that stuff, read what's left, and operate from that. So again, another sudo apt update. And buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. No calls to the bionic. He says, all right, I'm back to just living and learning and being happy with the Raspberry Pi. All right, so that's gone. We got a clean slate here. Now what you do, here's the easy way. It's totally easy. And I already did the first step last night because I wanted to test this and make sure. A million years ago, back in the days of drama, I showed you a program called Pi Apps. You can see it on the desktop here. And Pi Apps is kind of a store, right? It's like a game, like the Google Play Store or the Apple Store or something like that. Started out kind of rough, but it's really getting smooth and better. And what you do to get this thing, it's a lot easier and a lot better now than in its earliest days. All you have to do is type in the following command, And I'm not going to hit the enter key on here because I already did. And let's do a clear screen here. All right, so we'll do wget. And then what I want to do with the stuff he's going to get, here's where the files are that I want to get. There's an installation file, and we send it through the bash script interpreter. And buzz, 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 grind, grind, grind. And all of a sudden, two things will happen. We can get rid of this. One, up here, it will be added into the accessories. And you can run it from here, and that works just great. He also now does something that he didn't used to in his earlier days. He puts a shortcut on the desktop, but it won't run. If you double click it, now mine's going to run because I fixed this, but if you double click this right after the install, you'll get a list of questions that says, do you want to execute this? Do you want to execute it this way? Do you not want to execute it? Do you want to execute it that way? And so there's a really neat fix to solve that. You launch File Manager and you go into Settings, Preferences, Edit Preferences. And there's an unchecked box here that when it's unchecked says, don't ask options on launch executable file. Now this can be potentially a dangerous thing to check mark, but it does solve the problems. You check mark, you close, there's no rebooting or anything like that. And now suddenly, when you double click PyApps, it just runs from the desktop. So here's the install. This is going to be a shiny brand spanking new installation. We're going to go down to Internet. There it is. And then into browsers. And Firefox Rapid Release. This is the most current version. And he goes and gets it from the source. So, okay, we'll click that. And we get a little status menu here that tells me what's going on. This is the latest stable version. And it doesn't say 116 in there, so you're going to have to do it and figure it out. But that would really well. Now, if you want to go find out where they got it and what they're doing, you can click on scripts and go read all the scripts that run here. But I'm just going to hit the big install button. And here is our monitor progress screen. And over here is the script running. And that takes a couple of moments. It's not too awful long. Let's see if we can see anything about 116 as it happens here. I don't see anything. There's Ubuntu Bionic. He is getting it from Bionic, but not the same Bionic repo that we use. Here we go. Look at that. Down at the bottom, Firefox ARM HF 116.0.3. We're getting the right version. Huzzah! Dave, you could have just done this from the beginning and saved a whole bunch of time. Yes, but I wanted to teach you a little about what's involved in getting stuff from other repos. So when this gets done installing, there we go. It's installed successfully. The status window went away. The script window will go away in 25 seconds and counting down. It says you can close now, so let's close now. Boom. And I'm done. Now, what happens if we go into Firefox Rapid Release again? Something kind of cool. A couple kind of things cool here. Up here on the very top, it says installed. I didn't point it out, but it didn't say installed last time. And now we have a new option. Instead of installing, we can uninstall. So here's how to get rid of it if the new one is problematic. So we're ready to run it. Let's do, Dave. So we'll go into Start. We'll go into Internet. There's Firefox. It sure looks the same as it did last time. This is a new install. I'm going to get the questions again. I lied. I didn't. There they come. Okay, here comes the questions. Skip this page. Yes. And skip this page. And there's only 2 questions this time instead of 3. Start browsing. All right, we're ready to browse. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to close this and launch it again so I'm totally clean. And I'm looking for a page to go test on. Now remember, you won't hear audio on here because I'm using VNC and it doesn't pass audio. Did I actually hit the click when I said launch that? Let's try that again. Internet, Firefox. There we go. Opened it twice. And I guess we should go look and confirm. So, okay, hamburger menu, help, about, and there she is, 116.0.3. Runs fine on 32-bit. There's a 64-bit version as well. So let us open a page and see. As I said, I haven't tried this on the 4. I don't know what's going to happen. But I picked some video yesterday, or the other day when I was testing this, off YouTube. So let's see what she does. Is it going to be smooth? Is it going to be jumpy? Is it going to drop frames? Here we go. All right, I'm watching it on my real monitor that's direct connected, and I'm watching it on VNC. The VNC looks a little jumpy, and I think that's because we're passing it through VNC, because what I'm seeing on my real monitor, it is smooth as cream. So we are taking advantage now of hardware encoding. We can now watch browser-based videos on Raspberry Pi smoothly, and that's not something that anybody's been able to say yet. One of the really neat things is this eternal question that gets posted on Raspberry Pi forums. Can I use this as a replacement for my desktop? The answer is generally no, but sometimes yes. It depends on what you do with your desktop. But if you're interested in video, man, I got to tell you, when I did this over VNC with my 3B or my 3B Plus, whatever it is, it was so much more jumpy than this. So this is almost a joy to watch over VNC. And as I'm looking at it live on the real monitor, it is a joy. Wow. I'm going to let that finish because it's almost done. We like Westies here in this house. Our Westie passed away a little while back, and we still grieve a little bit. Cool, huh? Okay, close that. Let's go back into, see if you're still seeing me. Close that. Hey, we're still feeding. All right. And then if we wanted to undo any of this nonsense, all we would do is wake up Pi apps, go into browsers, and do our thing again. Just do the uninstall instead of the install. Man, I'm like 9 light years behind. I don't know what's going on there. Let me see what your messages have to say. How far back? 99 Luftballons. I'm going backward. Okay, I came back. Jason Helms came in. What up? Trisha Grace, wondering where you were, Jason. One day I should do a sudo apt-get and type a random word to see what it'll install. You may get more than you bargained for. There's a lot of stuff out there with a lot of words you can think of. Sudo apt-get new codes. Honestly got distracted, then looked at my phone and said, oh, hey, here we go. I'm going to say blah, 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 blah. Thank you. Do I need another shirt for that? Hey, Scott, you know where I got blah, blah, blah. That came from Doug Jones. And that's not a strange name here. We had Doug on Mike's AMA some time ago, and his presentation was just enrapturing. Oh, my gosh. 3 buzz and grinds. Are we going to rehash that? Patricia, you set yourself up with 2 and 2 on LinkedIn. Should have bought the t-shirt. Okay. I'm just reading messages here, enjoying them. Huzzah. I got huzzah from Scott and Mike. I never said huzzah until I joined their company. That's fast. What type of SD card are you using? That is my preferred card. It's not a big one. It's a SanDisk, and it's just 16 gigs. Like the SanDisk, might be SanDisk Pro, but even standard SanDisk is just fine for me. If I'm going to do something for real, it's going to be either on a Lexmark or Lex Pro or SanDisk. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit on Discord. Oh, Dave, we are so hearing audio. Yeah, well, of course it went silent when I shut down. I was over here trying hard to hear. Am I looking? Okay, it's got regular levels from when I started. Hopefully that's good. Doug Jones is a god. Oh, man. If you didn't see that, Scott, live, go back and look at that in the archive. Doug did a presentation called Everything the Layman Needs to Know About the ISS. Man, it was just outstanding. I would have CA. They like fat guys who are slow and old and dumb. All right, guys. Well, we did it. We got through everything. I'm not going to do the that one that I set aside, and we'll probably never do it. It was the ASCII Aquarium. It's about a dozen steps. You have to do a half a dozen steps for pre-setup and then another half a dozen to make it work. It's a cool thing. Absolutely with beards. But I'm not going to do it on here, and maybe I'll play with it sometime this week, and if it goes quickly, we could do it. Hey, well, I'm going to finish on time. Anybody got anything else here? Nothing? All right. Nobody's home. I'm here alone, so I'm not going to watch TV with the missus like we do sometimes in the